hate is a strong word, but I would tell you I hate someone who says I don't have the time.
It's there.
You have not correctly allocated your time to better yourself.
You have to tell your time what to do.
Yes.
If not, it's going to fill the space.
Oh, but
your employees will never say, "Hey, you should take an hour and do this."
no.
They'll
Take the time.
They'll take the time from you. You must prioritize. And you just need to remember this in your mind. You're prioritizing that so you can bring your best and value to your employees. Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us. Welcome back to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. We're your hosts, Matt and Shelby, today, ready to dive in to really, Shelby, simple things that can help business leaders every single day. And that's what we do, is we try to bring you value out there, business leaders, on things you can put into place or maybe you're dealing with in your small business on a day-to-day basis. And today is going to be a fun, yet kind of complex subject that some people cross the line too far on. Today we're going to talk about increasing the leader inside of you. We're going to talk about, self-improvement as ourselves. How do we continue to grow as a leader? But then two, where do we and how do we walk that fine line between being the leader, yet caring about the employee?
Yeah.
So that's an exciting one to dive into.
Now, don't forget last week, if you did not listen, you need to go back. Don't stop what you're doing now, but take the time to go back. We talked about business buzz, engage or stay neutral.
Yeah.
And kind of edged into what if we're talking politics, or should I support this or support that? And so we did our very best to say, how do you stay neutral, when to engage, when not to engage, and how to support all things to eventually grow your business. So that was a really good episode. And as always, don't forget to tune in and check out our website, LewisSuperstore.com, as it always updates with our latest inventory, our latest and greatest service specials, and how we can reach out and help you.
We got to plug what we drove, because that's a fun part of this whole episode of the podcast. Now, today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We talked about the fun stuff. Last week we talked about what could tow. We talked about the upper end, SUVs and trucks. Today we're talking about vehicles that make sense. That's that small SUV category. If you're looking for a four-wheel drive, or you're looking for a two-row SUV that gets great fuel mileage, but that's under $30,000. And we got two picks for you today.
Yeah, and make no mistake that it's not a fun vehicle.
Very true.
Right? They've done a really good job of being affordable, not overall on the cost of it, but also in the daily and the monthly cost to operate these things. So we're talking about the Ford Escape.
That's right. And then we're talking also about the Jeep Compass. So that gives you two great options.
Those are two great two-row, a B or C segment SUV there that are 30 to 39 miles per gallon. You can do a plug-in Escape hybrid and go well beyond that are sub 30 grand. We have some specials that are 25 and 26 grand, but they got all the technology.
They got the technology. They got the big screens. They've got all the safety equipment. You can get them in the full-wheel drive. So if you're a business leader out there, or if you're looking for something maybe for a runaround vehicle, maybe you got an office manager, or you need to go check the job site, these are great vehicles because they got a little cargo space in them too. You're talking under $30,000. They're safe. They're easy to drive, easy to see out of. And we got a great selection, whether you're looking on the Escape or you're looking for the Compass.
No doubt about that. They're both redesigned, both have the latest and greatest technology, and you would not be disappointed whether it's your family vehicle or it's your business vehicle. So what did we drive? One of those two. Come check them out. So today we're going to dive into increasing the leader inside of you. So the first topic I want to kind of throw out, and we'll break it down: balance and engagement and detachment, leading without losing authority. So if I say that, what's your first thought? What does that mean?
Man, when you start thinking about it, it's like, how do I have authority to hold people accountable, to get, and then the whole reason you're doing that is to get the results you're looking for, to help them achieve their goals. Yet at the same time, it's been written about, talked about, and we've talked about it. if you don't show an employee that you actually care about them as a human being, you're never going to get full potential out of them.
I think that's one of the hardest things is people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
That's right.
Right? We're talking about employees or customers, but with employees, they need to know, like let's talk last week about snow removal.
Mm-hmm.
We do snow removal. We get the whole team to do snow removal, so we're ready to go. And it cannot be from the top of the castle.
That's right.
Saying, go here, do this, do that, while you're sitting with your feet propped up, so it's leading by example. And so that's where they know that, hey, you're getting involved.
You bet.
To show them, here's how it needs to be done, and I want to support and be beside you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's most important to get buy-in. And that's where you learn some more about them.
That's right.
So you can ask, hey, how's your family? How's such and such doing? But you got to be careful not to go too far.
You do. Let's unpack what you said right there, and we'll start just with the part about leading by example. Because first, there's nothing more powerful than your employees seeing you do something versus just saying to do something.
You need to pick up the trash when you see it on the parking lot.
And I know this is a pet peeve of yours too, and not too many things aggravate me, but one of the things that just gets under my skin is when an employee says, that's not my job. You know what I mean?
And we've learned by that, it drives me nuts because there's nothing in a business that I wouldn't do, that you wouldn't do, that no one should be above that, right? Now, is it the best use of your time always? No, sir. Mm-hmm. But we've started writing in job descriptions initially when hiring and rebuilding job descriptions at the very bottom, and it says includes all other aspects of the job that may or may not be defined currently, but may arise and will be part of your job.
That's one of the things we've learned, especially as we've scaled and we've moved, and this year we're going through a whole lot of that, is things that you assume as a leader or as a business owner, your employees will not do. So you have to write that stuff down. But, for example, and Shelby brings up this point, and I get asked this question all the time, like, why don't you hire somebody to do that? And there's probably areas that I could do a better job at doing that. But at the same time, I'm never going to lose walking across the lot. And if there's a piece of trash, I'm going to pick it up. I'm never going to stop if we're backed up in service and they need help moving the vehicles through because everybody's checking in service. I'm going to jump in the car and I'm going to move it forward.
That goes to your nonverbal communication. You might not have to say a word. You just hop in the car, move it forward, run it through the car wash, pick up some trash.
Same thing if the coffee maker's out of coffee. I'm not saying, hey, that's somebody else. I'm going to sit there, I'll brew, get the coffee going. Of course, we have the fancy coffee machines now. But if it needs to be cleaned or the filter, I can do that, interact with somebody else. So we're talking about small things there that a leader can do, that it doesn't become a 2, 3, 4 hour task. You're talking about a 5 minute, a 3 minute, a 10 minute.
Last week we talked about filters, right? Running through the filter. Yep. So one of the filters that I will generally, if it's something that I see needs attention, if it can be done in 3 minutes or less, as long as I don't have a window that I need to be in a meeting in 3 minutes, or don't have a customer, a specific decision, if it can be done in 3 minutes or less, go ahead and do the task.
That's a good point. And I'm glad you bring the filters back up, because you do have to have some checks and balances and boundaries, because we're prone to doing this. It's going down a rabbit hole and getting too deep.
So like if the oil change line is really long, which is rare, right? Because we have over 10 oil change service bays plugged, you should always be able to come in and get a not long way. But can you change oil in a car?
Absolutely. I can change oil in a car. We have changed tires for a customer.
But all these things. You?
No, I should not, unless they're backed up and they really need the help and I have the time available.
So that would be in your filter. Like what I'm getting to is that you have the ability to change a tire.
Yes.
You know how to change oil. You could rebuild an engine just because you understand that. That would not be a good use of your time. And that would be well enough that you go find other people to help you to do that and say, hey, what if we looked at this? And they're like, oh, okay. All right, that works. So that would be the filter if that takes more than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So in that 3 minutes, instead of just completely ignoring the problem,
absolutely,
you could go identify the people to help you to do that you've hired that have a better skill set.
Yes.
To be able to do that.
And I think to go into my answer there of maybe more defined, because you bring up a great point. We talked about this on a couple podcasts ago, is we were listening to some other people as far as growing as a leader.
Yeah.
And one of those leaders said, hey, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
So that's the great filter for that. So maybe I don't go all the way through changing the oil, but if it's moving the vehicle onto the rack, because so then they're prepared and they have less steps there.
Yeah.
Plus then it frees up service. Okay, that's less than 3 minutes. They show that I was progressively helping them towards their goals, so on and so forth. Same thing in sales. So we all like getting involved, especially on a Saturday, in sales of how else can we help. One, it puts our thumb on what's going on.
Yeah.
So we hear current objections or current struggles, this and that. But there may be time on a Saturday or during the week where I see them backed up. I may go grab the keys to go do a trade appraisal because that keeps the sales manager at the desk, keeps them active. So I can help with the process without taking over the deal that I might be with for an hour.
Yes.
Because it may take longer than 3 minutes to do the appraisal, but it's not taking a long time.
Yeah, and that's the time that you, like on a Saturday, there's less of all the other operations. So you have a little more time there. And you have to know this, and I have to plug this because we had this example, and I don't want to waste it. Just know that you can set the example of picking up the trash, moving the car. Don't be frustrated when not everyone gets it. Because when we were clearing snow, I mean, February is a short month anyways, and it's about the numbers. And you take 3 or 4 days of snow, and I was like, oh, I hate the snow, I hate the snow, I hate the snow. But we make the most of it and still had days where we were super productive. There were people on the team, and we were out. We're the first ones there, I assure you, with the plow trucks and the game plan, and you'd come up with a whole strategy to tell everyone how they could help. And there were people standing at the door looking out to say, I only get paid X dollars an hour, and it's not enough to go outside and plow the snow. And, oh, buddy, just like chat your butt like never before. Like, do you think this is a good use of my time to be able to do this? So just don't give up when the first sign of a person's like, yeah, I saw you pick up trash. That means I don't have to.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one because that'll get under your skin and you want to unleash, which we don't. But,
you can't win them all. You just have to know it's a science.
But I'll tell you, you talk about that snow removal parts. That's a hot topic. We'll talk about that is, before when we had done it, we're like, hey, people will see us doing it and they'll jump in and help. And it never happened. They all sat inside eating donuts, drinking coffee, and Shelby, Taylor, and I would be out there plowing for 8 hours, removing this, removing that while they're all inside. And we're like, okay, we got to get better direction.
Yes.
That's a reflection. Okay, you get over being angry, and then you're like, what could I have changed there so I don't have that issue going forward? So then we color-coded the whole thing, had the meeting. It didn't fix everybody, but 80% of them.
Yeah.
And we talked about that in previous episodes. If you can get 70 or 80% out of somebody else, that's a win.
Yep.
That's a win. If they're given 100% like you would give, it's probably time to elevate them to a new position.
Yep. They need something that challenges them a little more.
They really do. So, leading by example, that's our first part there, and that's our management style. And I'd say, we lead a whole lot by walking around and they can see, we're involved there, we're doing this, we're doing that. But there's no quicker way to get employees buy-in than helping them to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And to the quote you went to just a minute ago about, hey, they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Correct.
The quickest way to prove to an employee that you care is not by running them your mouth and saying, hey, we care about you, we care about you. It's like, show me.
Yeah.
Show me. So you help somebody do that. You help them close a deal. You help them pull a car in. You help them take checks here or this or that. Stuff that you can do in those 3-minute increments, like you said. That proves and that gets buy-in faster than anything else.
So that is the way that we do it and the way that we found it works. So that allows us to get past surface level with employees.
It does.
Right, to know that we care, to know that we're there for them, check on their family. So how do we do that without becoming one of the crowd, like one of the guys, one of the boys, like, hey, we're going out to the bar, hey, we're going out to this? Because sometimes you're just like, no. Okay, majority of the time you're like, no. I'm worn out, I'm whipped, I'm going home. But it's still like you'd like to get the invite of like, hey, we're going to do fight night, or we're going out to dinner for this or that. How do you not become one of the crowd?
Let me first bust a bubble for everybody real quick.
And you don't realize this until you either scale your business or you start moving up in positions. The farther you get up, there's less people at the top of the mountain and there's less invites.
It's funny because I was sitting the further you go, which is everyone wants to be at the top of the ladder, or majority of the people, I should say, the lonelier it gets.
You don't get near as many invites. You don't have near as many friends. It's just, and I'm not being doom and gloom here. I'm just saying, like, that's what it is.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But it's funny. And for whatever reason, they might be like, hey, they're intense. I do not want them to level me up. I don't want them to see me doing X or Y, but it still happens. So let's say you're mid-level on the ladder.
It still happens. So one of the things we've always done is how do we show employees that we care, yet we don't cross over the line, really honestly, so we don't get emotionally involved and start making bad business decisions.
That's the whole reason, because it's not that you can't go hang out. I think that's perfectly fine. The problem is you get emotionally invested in that person.
Yeah.
And so then when they're not performing at the level, doing their job or their duties as they should, can you then still make managing decisions without being biased because that's your bud?
And it's not that person that you're affecting, it's the rest of the team.
That's the big thing.
Because
like,
then
no,
they start
he's
talking.
his buddy. Like, no, he was late. He went and picked up his kids. Hey, he was behind his sales goal. It's his buddy. He gets all the deals. That's his buddy. And then the water starts spoiling.
It's funny you say that because we've hired new managers before and they've come in and I've had them specifically ask me this. They say, hey, I just need to know, are there any employees that are off limits or that I can't manage or I can't fire, like they're a protected employee? That's the easiest way to say this. Okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, we came from so-and-so and it was the boss's college buddy or this or that. And
that's so
funny. No, there's not. We're running a business. Do I care about people? Yes. But the last thing I want, and it happens to us anyways, as strict as we are about what we're talking about, they're like, no, they've known them for a long time. They can get away with that.
Yeah.
And that's so bad. It's toxic for your culture.
Yeah, and you don't need to give them any more of a foothold than that is actually going to happen anyways. By just the stories that people make and create just because of a high five or a whatever. Right?
So my suggestion there, now we do monthly, what we call a cake day. We used to do luncheons, and that just honestly, that got out of hand. Like a luncheon sounds great. We'll still do it every once in a while. But what we found is we would have a luncheon and then the employee would still go to lunch.
And we put so much effort because in a survey they would say, yeah, I wish they would do more. And it was we kept doing more.
I know.
And they kept saying, I wish they'd do more. It's like, all right. So we would bring in a couple food trucks. We would shut the whole store down for an hour. We would take the time to build an entire presentation.
Yep.
To scrub all the numbers to say this person did great and this person had growth. There was a lot of effort.
It was a lot.
And then they would either be busy still in their bay or they would be with a customer. Uh-huh. They would come and get the food. Yep. They would not take in any of the presentation. And then as soon as that was over, they'd punch out and go for lunch for an hour.
I know. So once we looked at that, and you got to remember how the brain works. And I'm not going to get deep in here, but you just need to understand all these things we're talking about. Your initial thought inside your brain is the front part of your brain, and it's that fight or flight where the emotions get involved, and you're mad about it because they're not helping pick up trash. You're mad about it because they're not engaged in the luncheon. And if you'll just calm and not react, then logical will take over. And it's like, okay, we just need to adjust. We need to adjust. Now let's adjust to an afternoon cake day that takes 15, 20 minutes. We can celebrate everybody. So that's how we can show recognition. I think what it really crosses the line is when you start having the after hours stuff. Now, like you said, and I'm the same way, at the end of the day, I'm done, which is a great sign because that means we laid it all out there for our business and our employees.
I had that same talk this morning while running, talking about that when you finish something, when you finish a race,
yes,
you should never, if it's a goal to be a race, you should never cross the finish line and say, I feel like I had some more in the tank. I feel like, and I'm saying this and you're festering up over there, But
No.
yeah, and so I was talking to a guy that had just ran one of his first races, and I said at the end, you should almost be able to taste the lactic acid.
Yes.
You should not be able to have an extra breath. And when you feel like you should turn it up, that means you're just holding on.
Yes.
But when you cross the finish line, you should almost collapse at the finish line.
And it doesn't matter the distance. It doesn't matter if we're talking about 1 mile, a 5K, a half marathon, or 100
And it doesn't
miles.
even mean the speed.
It at all.
It's just
that's
effort.
irrelevant. Now I'm going to tell you 2 times here, okay? Because we got to use this as a story. The times are irrelevant, but I'm just using them as reference.
Yeah.
Okay. I can remember a year we took a whole crew over to Tulsa to run the Route 66 marathon.
Yeah.
Okay. We finished the Route 66 marathon, and just like you said, like no matter what it was in, no matter what shape we're in, it's all going on the line, max effort for whatever condition we're in.
Yes.
You know, so we finish, and then some other people finish almost 3 hours after us.
Yes.
And I'm not saying because of speed and we're faster than them, okay? But 3 hours after us, and I was like, "Oh, great job! You did really good. How'd that feel?" And they're like, "Man, that was really easy." And I'm going, "Don't ever say that again. If you say that was really easy after a marathon, you were lollygagging.
Yeah, so
You're walking.
if you say at work, hey, that was pretty simple and easy, like,
You didn't give enough effort."
you didn't put enough effort in. You just got by.
I know.
So we've seen that. So it's funny. I was saying that because there's been some people that we followed. Like,
I know. You
Hey,
know
at
it's
the
going
finish
there.
line, I felt like I had some more in the tank. I was like, well, what were you holding back for?
You know, Goggins talks about this, and some of y'all may have listened to David Goggins. He's pretty crazy and out there. But one of the things I always remember in my mind is when he's talking about some of the races, and he sits there and he wants to soak in and embrace at the end of it all this effort and what he calls the suck and the pain.
Yeah,
that he
he'd
went
broken
through.
like 6 toes, and I think
He's like, "Let me sit there. I earned this."
Earned this.
I know. So that's a point too. Like when I get done, it's like, let me sit there and be, at the end of the day, let me be wore out, but let me be proud of what I put in because I'm helping others be successful.
Yeah.
So, and I know that got off on a tangent, but I guess what I'm saying there is, and I follow some other business leaders and they take some employees to lunch, you know, the employees of the month. So it's not random buddy there,
Yeah.
or whether you do a cake day or this or that. There's ways to engage without just having after hours or everybody's going to a concert together or this or that. And I'm not saying if you're a smaller business and you've got 8 employees and you're going to take everybody to the county fair or whatever, I'm just making things up.
I'm not saying
But
that's wrong. It's just not worked for us.
When you're there though, it's, you know, and I don't care if you buy beer and drink shots and all this stuff, but don't be buying a round of shots for your entire team. That's just not going to equal something that's productive.
No, because remember, we're leading without losing authority.
Yeah.
And if you can't properly control all the things, you might think, no, I'm in charge. I'm always in charge. That's what you think. But around the coffee pot, they're like, oh, lick it up, Larry.
Yeah.
He was, over here with this, or she was that, whatever it may be. You've lost authority and you don't even realize it.
So that'll be like a silent assassin in your business.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting, when you get people not following you, and it's funny, I was talking about this to students at the U of A last night. And I said, your biggest thing is you can have the greatest idea or the greatest product or whatever else it may be. But if you don't have people on your side in your vision, helping you pull the wagon towards that goal, you have nothing.
Yeah, it's like, think about a team of ox or mules or whatever. If you don't have the whole team yoked up,
Yep.
you'll have plenty of people around watching,
You will.
and you'll be like, all right, here's the game plan, here's what we're going to do, and you'll be the only one hooked up pulling the cart, and it won't go anywhere.
So I think that's really important. And that's a tough line. We're not sitting here saying that's easy because it's tough.
No, because you have to push the edge of the line to get to know the family, to
Yeah.
get to know the workers. How's the daughter doing? Hey, how was the basketball game? At a surface level, we're not sitting down, and that's our introvert, but you have to get close enough so that there's buy-in, that you're not, hey, everyone go do this. I'm going to go to the country club and go play golf.
Exactly.
And then you send me the results and how it goes. Like, they don't respect you,
They don't.
right? And
They
so
don't.
you have to get close enough to that without going too far. Because I've never heard great examples of how going too far worked out.
I haven't either. I'll tell you another old cheat code too. If you have an employee or a manager that is passionate about something, or they have a new idea when you're sitting around and they have the ability, allow them to take the lead on that subject. Not only allow them to take the lead, but then you step back and you're their biggest support and cheerleader. Don't say you take the lead on this and go play golf for the afternoon. But if they see you supporting them, like let's say it's a new whatever,
Yeah.
and they've done all the research, say, hey, why don't you take the lead on this?
Yeah.
And then you support them, how much are they going to support you?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So that's the thing as a leader, is about being engaged, knowing your employees. But I don't know what my employees do on vacation. I don't know all their hobbies. You got to know at a surface level enough to know what their driving factor is on why they're at work.
Yeah.
Yet not crossing over that line. We're not going on a cruise together. We're not going here. We're not going there. That's just, guys, you think like too many people fall in that trap. There's two traps that I'm going to say uneducated leaders fall into. All right. One is being buddy-buddy with employees. And number two is managing by fear. Either one of those, when I see those out of a leader, I'm like, that's a leader that needs to work on themselves first, because they're trying to manage out of fear because they don't know how to actually lead and get the most out of people. Or two, they think if they'll buddy-buddy with somebody that they'll work harder. And what that's actually doing is the opposite of it.
Yeah.
So those are really two things that as a leader, you've got to challenge yourself to be able to evolve and adapt and continue to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great.
For sure. Okay, hey, let's get to a fun fact quiz of the week. Wow. How many small businesses started in 2024? I paused there because I was like, are we talking about Fayetteville? Are we talking about Arkansas?
I think this is probably good.
I think this is, we're going to go big. We're going big here. So how many small businesses started in just 2024? Now, the numbers are 375,000, 1.1 million, 3.3 million, or 5.2 million. I love reading those numbers, and I don't even know what the answer is yet because they're all big numbers, and it tells me that there are entrepreneurs out there wanting to hustle, make their mark, and open up a business and rock and roll.
Yep. Yeah, the ambition is there.
The ambition is there for sure. So we'll come back to that one. Hey, next up is, now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I kind of led into it with those two, but let's talk about personal growth and leadership development to stay ahead of the team. And you and I both work on this because we know we work on it for selfish reasons of ourselves, but then inadvertently everybody else sees us working on it, so it bleeds over. And I love the quote that Craig Groeschel has. He said, everyone wins when the leader gets better. So if you'll think about that, is you as a leader, if you get better, your entire team, that trickles down. And we've all seen that if you're progressing organically, you don't even have to say anything. Everybody else sees it going on. They start adapting. They start challenging themselves. However, if you stay stale or neutral or plateau or whatever you want to call it, they do the same. What are your thoughts there?
So a couple different things of like personal growth so that you can be a better leader. Some people naturally will want this and some people will not at all. Some people will actually do it and some people will stay still. And so I'll tell you from my personal, when I became a leader and had people underneath me and then grew that I had to teach and preach to some more people and then had more eyeballs on me and I had to teach them something new, or more people were coming to me for answers, I had to realize I cannot continue to tell them the same story and based on the same metrics. You have to circle back to those things. But then I needed to have new material to be able to teach them so that they paid attention well enough. Imagine going to a presentation or a church service and they taught the same thing every single time. You would lose fellowship, you would lose viewership, you would lose trust. Mm-hmm. And so I was challenged to be able to deliver the latest and greatest, the most relevant, the best converting, the highest managing level of material, right? And so then we know what we know, right? And that we could spend hours and months and weeks talking about all those things, but I had to make it surface level of how do they put the rubber to the road. And so I still have to continually grow to see what's the market doing, how are people responding, and then how do I teach and preach to our team that they see growth is happening.
That's right.
Hey, we see this, and it's not the same thing, and we do teach on the same principles because they're the basics, and people have this tough thing where they forget the basics. But then I can see their eyes light up every Monday morning when I get to talk in front of the entire sales team. If I can say, let me tell you a story, and that is a inside trader tip. If you are teaching or talking, if you will stop for a second and say, let me tell you a story, if the learning pyramid was up here, only 5% of them are really paying attention. If you'll say that, it will catch their attention and they will all pay attention. So one, make sure it's a good story. Don't go too long.
You bet.
And then circle it back around to what you're trying to say. But if I can say, hey, do you mind if I show you something new that I just learned? And so then I can show them, hey, based on me learning this is where it shows and how it converts and how you can apply it.
You bet.
It allows me. So the crazy thing is I help them get better, and in them getting better, I get better.
Very true.
And so then in the competitiveness that we are, I'm like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. So on my way to work, I can listen to an audio book, and then in the sauna, I can listen to this, and then I have some people that I'll send a motivational this, and so then it just keeps going, and I watch these videos to scrub them to see if I'll send them to the sales team.
Sure.
And and it just keeps going and going.
That's very true. And I think if you look at that, and I'll have people ask me, like, well, where do you get it from? Guys, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And if you'll build it, so for example, you have to, and I'll go through myself here, but you have to absolutely surround yourself with that so it's coming at you everywhere. So the amount of newsletters that I'm subscribed to that come into my email on a daily or a weekly basis on leadership tips or new habits or this or that, that's organically coming at me. I don't have to go find it because I've set that up. If you look at any of my social feeds, whether it's a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok, 90% of my feed is all about business, motivational, investing, strategy, this, that. It's all those people on there. So organically, like anytime I would click on any of those apps, it's just in my face and it's coming at me. You know, if you'll look at the podcast I'm following or the books or the this. So it's all these sources and streams that are constantly around me, refilling me up. Because you got to think as a leader, when we're at work, we're being drained.
Yes. At the end of the day, we talked about you were drained.
So that if you don't fill yourself back up, you just can't go to sleep and then be good. Like energy-wise, okay, you know, but if you want to be filled back up so you can pour back into others, you must prioritize yourself. And that's something that I didn't always know. I was always growing and this and that, but I would just keep grinding. I'm like, I can't take an hour out to do this, or I can't do this or that. Yes, I can, and it's actually costing me more to not do it, because I have to take care of filling myself up first before I can pour into others.
It's the same philosophy, and I tell this story, one, to get people to pay attention to tell a story, but two, because it's so relevant. So 2 lumberjacks set out to cut down an acre.
You bet.
They both are given an axe. They're both given a day to cut down this acre of forest. And so they said, all right, go get them. So 2 of them take off. They start cutting down. Then one stops. And the other one looks over. He's like, man, that guy's taking a rest. I'm going to beat him to it.
Yep.
I don't know what the goal was at the end of it, but it was the goal of the person cutting it down first wins. And so he's like, what's this guy doing? So he stops to sharpen his axe. And in the time that he stops to sharpen his axe, he gets 3 trees ahead, the guy who didn't stop. So then they keep cutting. And then he stops to sharpen his axe again. Well, then at this point, he'd still cut some more trees down, but at that time, he wasn't cutting trees down as fast. The guy who had not stopped. By the end, he had stopped 5 or 6 times to sharpen his axe, while the other guy was just like, I'm still sprinting, I'm still grinding, I'm still getting it. And meanwhile, the other guy who had stopped to polish and sharpen his axe had passed him by 15 plus trees in that 1 acre because he had stopped to work on what was working.
Yes.
You stop and pour into yourself.
Yes.
Instead of, I've got so many meetings and I have so many projects to do. If you ask any business owner, manager, or leader, hey, how's it going? They're going to say, how was your day? You know, past the surface level. They're like, it's so busy. I can't get my head above water. You have to schedule that, and you've got time. I hate is a strong word, but I would tell you I hate someone who says I don't have the time.
It's there.
You have not correctly allocated your time to better yourself.
You have to tell your time what to do.
Yes.
If not, it's going to fill the space.
Oh, but
Your employees will never say, hey, you should take an hour and do this.
no.
They'll
Take the time.
They'll take the time from you. You
only
must prioritize. And you just need to remember this in your mind. You're prioritizing that so you can bring your best and value to your employees.
That's a really hard thing to conceptualize there. If you're
so
thinking
hard.
to take away from directly the business, so directly, you know, if you're a plumber out there and you're like, no, I need to help them get their supply list. I need to get these things ordered so they can get the job done.
Yep.
Like, one, you need to have somebody else that's helping you do that. But two, if you're saying, no, I need to better myself. And everyone betters themselves in a different form or fashion. Matt gave you his ways that he does it. So there's, you know, when you scroll Instagram or Facebook, it's pretty thoughtless.
Yeah.
But if there's something that's relevant to help you, you'll either save it, listen to it, consume it, send it. And then it's like non-thoughtful programming in your brain.
It's just like constantly.
It's just a download. And so if you can do that, then the thoughtfulness of I am actually taking the time, and it's okay for my team to be without me while I'm bettering myself to help them. I'm stopping to sharpening my axe, and it seems like you're sitting on your butt not doing anything, but you're actually working on the better down the road.
That's so good. And I hope everybody's grasping that. And I promise you, whatever stage you're in, we can relate because we've been there and working 14, 16, 17 hours a day and just going, I just got to keep grinding. We're the best at grinding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had the dull axe. And I mean, I'll just keep swinging it till the axe comes off.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
I've done it.
But then you look at the other side and there's a better way to do this. And you don't realize that until you get around people that are at a different level than you.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I had somebody else ask me this. So well, who do you reach out to? And I said, the majority of people I follow and get information from, they don't know me from Adam.
That's the funniest thing. They don't know you. They don't know that they're teaching you.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So the easiest way to do this, and then I'm going to talk about different chapters here in just a minute, but the easiest way to do this is you just start with a Google search. Top podcast on managing plumbers. Top podcast on estimating jobs. Top podcast on how to develop layers of leaders. Whatever it is. And then you might have to go through 10 of them to figure out the one that relates.
The one that you like. It's so funny because there's a lady, Cody Sanchez, that I follow that is all about hands-on businesses.
Yep.
And she came from the stock market and was pretty big in New York in the stock market exchange and has gone completely over to building businesses and taking over this business that is exiting. And so she talks about that.
Yeah.
And she just, I love that. And she's like, you have to make sure that you're fully encapsulating yourself in that and taking the time. And so she says, I will just do a Reddit search.
Yeah.
I will do a Reddit search of, hey, how does this business scale? How does this do this? Even use ChatGPT and ask it questions and say, hey, what does a successful plumbing business look like? And it'll tell you because it's basing it off the internet. And then you say, okay, so if I was new to a plumbing business, how would I structure a day?
Yep.
And if I'm looking for X amount of gross profit or gross revenue, what would that look like and what is that structure? It is free. And you talked about the content to find that people don't even know you. Because we're in a society of people who want to be the most successful, and all those new businesses we talked about that we'll find out here shortly, all those people generally, or a lot of them, are putting it all out there.
You bet.
Because they want the views. And so you get all this free content. I even saw Tony Robbins the other day had a whole 3-day workshop, and his workshops are expensive because they're good.
Sure.
It was a free 3-day workshop because he knew if he could get you in, that you got to consume it, that he could put you on a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's no different than like when we're talking, so many people have poured into us, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this podcast. Honestly, we don't have paid advertisement on here. I mean, yeah, we plug a car at the first, but we're not really trying to sell cars on here. Our goal is to be able to help small businesses that can dive into any of these subjects that they're going through that might be able to help them better lead their business. And then maybe organically, when it comes time for a car, they're like, hey, they poured into me, I'll at least give them a shot.
That's the hope. And the funny thing is, as we continue to grow and lead and build our business, is a lot of things we assume that our entire team knows.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, I just didn't know how to do that. It's like, we've been talking about that forever. So then in the podcast, like, okay, let's spend a whole entire hour just on one subject. So one, we can either send the team to it, or it's helped us really break that down. So then when they say that, we're like, no, actually, we do need to spend more time to help them refocus. They should know that. So if you're a small business out there and you're just tuned out driving to work, listen to this, like, stop and take some notes, because
you bet.
It is very simple, but it has to be done with the process.
So another piece I want to dive in before we move on about personal growth and leadership is you must make sure that you're adapting to the chapter you're in your business. And what I'll say by that is, when I first started off, it wasn't as much in leadership. It was always surrounding around it. I was in F&I at the time, so sales and word tracks. And it was constantly about that until I really polished my craft on that. Well, then as it moved on and I moved out of that role and into more of a leadership, I had to reteach myself, like, how do you manage managers? How do you lead at an executive role that I didn't have a playbook for? Wildly successful at the other, I needed to reach out, start learning about some new subjects on that. How do you get better at goal setting? How do you teach people that? So you got to move with that. And even in construction, I'll now get people that ask me, how do you know so much about construction? I don't, and I didn't. I know more now than I did. But I just started looking at podcasts and reading books on how to run a commercial construction project, what to ask the GCs, so on and so forth. There's so much knowledge out there. You don't have to be the smartest person out there. Just go get it.
I think the important part there of realizing is that if you get to a road of you're saying how, you have two options. You can either say, I don't know how, and my leader above me never taught me, and I'm just going to sit there. And we have people that say that. No one ever taught me how to use CDK. No one ever taught me how to properly do that. Well, we had a lot of people that taught us basics and fundamentals, our dad and some other leaders. But then we're going to new chapters, and we're going to whole new heights. And so you have the option of saying no one did, and then you'll stay right where you're at.
Right where you're at.
Probably going to progress backwards because more small businesses are starting.
Exactly.
Or you can say, you know what, let me take all the resources and go figure it out.
Absolutely.
And that's how you grow as a leader.
It really is. And you keep pushing. If you ask any of our, especially manager level wise and up, in our business, especially starting this year, that's been the theme on growth and how do we scale. And they would say, man, our meetings look different. And what they're talking about is different. Their challenges, it's different than it was last year. So that's leading by example in growth. So we're kind of combining both those first two subjects we talked about. And you could just ask them and, okay, they're seeing that. So now we see them, again, leading by example. Now they're scaling. And some employees that haven't done that in a long time are now going, hey, well, I took what you went over in the meeting, and now I'm restructuring my meetings this way and growth for my team.
And it's not as uncomfortable for them because it's happening to them from a different level, and they're like, I can do this. Like, I've grown a little bit. Let me see if I can help some other people grow.
You bet. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so how many small businesses started in 2024? I believe we're talking global from Forbes and SBA.gov.
Okay, that's real.
The options were 375,000, 1.1 million, 3.3 million, or 5.2 million. In 2024, 5.2 million new businesses started.
And that's incredible.
That's ridiculous.
5.2 million?
Yep.
Wow.
I never would have guessed that.
That just makes me proud for the entrepreneurs out there. Go get you some.
Hey, don't give up. Don't give up at the first sign of trouble.
As I told some people, again, this is fresh on my mind because I was at the U of A speaking. I'm one of those guys that show me the odds and the stats, and then I can beat it. You know, we love talking about our business. We've beat 95% of businesses by making it to the fourth generation. Not because we're the lowest priced, you know, not because of this, not because of that, because we hung in there and we had the processes and we didn't give up when it was tough. We beat 95% of other businesses out there.
Yeah.
Things like that fire me up.
Yeah.
You know, no different than in sales, they say over 80% of customers forget their salesperson's name after 1 year. I tell salespeople, you want to beat 80% of other salespeople? Just keep following up so they know your name.
Hey, it's me. My name's Shelby. Just
That's
say
it.
hi.
It's not that hard to be successful.
No, because I don't know what the stat is, but I think it's the amount of small businesses that'll close within the first year is like 80 something percent. Don't quote me exactly. So of the 5.2 million,
Yeah.
80% are going to close within the first year.
Just hang in there.
Just hold on.
And I think that's why, and I'm not going to get off a tangent here, but that's one of the reasons that attracts us to endurance sports is this, whether it be life or it be business, it's not a sprint.
No.
It's an endurance, and you've got to problem solve, and you got to adjust along the way. And if you'll get that right mental mindset, you can bury people.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, so last segment we'll go over here is the leader's identity.
Okay.
So the leader's identity, we've been talking about personal growth and leadership development and how not leading without losing authority. Staying true to core value as a leader while adapting. So core values are super important. We talk about culture. We talk about your core values of like, we're not going to go away from our core values, even when you're trying to lead, even when you're trying to grow. And so how leaders can evolve without losing sight of their original principles.
I think once you develop those, that always stays at the core.
Yeah.
You know, so if you look at our core principles in our business, it's that we're family owned and operated. You know, it's that we operate ethically, honestly.
Yeah.
And our overall goal is to provide a great place for employees to earn a living
Yes.
with a fantastic culture, and then to be able to give back to the local community. So if that stays the focus, whether that was in 1946 or in 2025 now, and then you just keep scaling that, you can do that. There's no reason you have to lose sight of that right there, yet still improve as a business.
Yeah, and I think we touched on that a little bit of last week talking and in the trendy of things. So if you get in the trendy trying to get views or follows or trying to gain business,
Yes.
and you get lost too far in that, you might lose your personal authenticity.
Yes.
You know, of like what your core value is. And people are like, man, you've changed.
Yep.
It needs to be you change in a good way. And I love that you've stayed grounded to say you want to take care of your people, want to be family owned and operated, you want to be able to give back to the community, serve customers at the highest level without going just overly trendy because it worked, right? You know, people say, hey, I'll do whatever it takes to get a like, share, or follow. Like, yeah, okay, but what did you gain there?
I think those are two different trains of thought. The one's a short-term game.
Yeah.
The other one's a long-term game.
Yeah.
You know, and you run it through that. And I know we said this word again, but you run it through that filter.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with progressive or try this over here or try that. But does it point back here? Or is it going against what your core values are? You can do business in a different way. It's evolved. We sell cars differently now than they did in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we've lost how we do business. We've evolved, yet our nucleus, the center of it, has stayed the same.
Yeah.
About caring about our employees, a great culture at work, and then pouring back into the local community.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the filters that we go through too when people ask about sponsorships. Is it a local sponsorship? You know, so that's one of those things that come. Sponsorships change. Donations change every single year, but they're always circled around. Is that somebody local? Are they a customer of ours? You know, we're not interested in sponsoring stuff in Orlando, Florida, you know, or down in Dallas, you know, really even down in Little Rock.
Yeah.
Does it affect the local people that do business with us?
Because it's full circle. So if you got caught up in the idea of trying to get away from personal authenticity because it grew, that short-term growth of like, hey, let me get someone, a online creator to support our product,
Yes.
you know, an ambassador per se, and that you're not giving back to someone local. Sure, you're helping someone, but It doesn't help your circle. We talked about how much of the dollar of a local business stays local. So if you have that person, but it gets you more views or it gets you more eyeballs, whatever your core value, our core value is local. And so that does not align with that. So you have to be careful that you have that balance between personal authenticity and professional adaptability.
I think that's a great point. And one of the traps we've always ran is whatever you see online or you see on TV or you're hearing this podcast, if you walked into one of our physical locations, you would see, feel, and hear the same. We always want to be the same. We never want to be chasing, well, I said this over here, but it's really this. Honestly, we got too much going on, and I'm not strong enough to juggle all that on what I would have said. So it's like, well, let's just be transparent.
Let's be transparent. Let's be
always
real,
be the same.
Always be honest. And that, as we have grown and hired more and more managers, we've had to be very clear in that. Mm-hmm. Whether it's our pricing, like our online pricing is our price. And
yes.
You think that's ridiculous, but the automotive business has never been known for, hey, these people are angels, and these people are always have the best interest of the consumer.
Yep.
Our business is, I can assure you of that. 79 years later, but it takes work because we have new managers, and it's not that they mean wrong, but they've been in the wrong atmosphere. They've been in the boiling water for too long. And so every once in a while, we'll have to check on that. Yep. And that might be via a salesperson or via a customer or a secret shop, and to say, hey, are we still sticking to our core values, to what we say is what we actually do? Because we want to be able to take those odds, the endurance race of saying people rank it with getting your teeth knocked out or having to pay your taxes with buying a car. Like, it is not a tough thing, and it should be fun and enjoyable. And so we love that endurance race to make it say, this is easy. And so we have to make sure our team understands, because there's some of them that say, we used to do it like this, that you could change the price. Or if they don't have a trade, you could jack it up. Or I was having a conversation with another Ford dealer the other day, and he was like, we don't offer all these rebates that are out there, but people don't qualify for it. That's just not how we do business. And I said, you and I are on the same page.
I think that is so true, because we're in a business where really the odds and even the persona out there is against us.
Yeah.
So we've made it very clear that like whatever price you see online is the same price you'll get in the store. And we'll hire somebody from somewhere else, and we got to reprogram them.
Yes.
The other thing is on the trade. We take a lot of pride that whatever number we put on your trade-in value, even if you don't buy the car from us, we'll write you a check for it.
Yes.
Like it's a real number. And if you want a cheat code on other dealers and you think they're messing around with you, just say, hey, if I don't buy your car, will you still buy mine for this amount? That'll tell you real quick how real the numbers are. In our business, it's like, no, we want to sell you a car and get your car.
Yes.
But if not, if we tell you it's worth $10,000, we'll still write you a $10,000 check for it.
Yep, that will quickly show you the honesty of what you're dealing with. And so that's important that we understand that we stay true to our core values while adapting to what's currently going on, so that we're still lucrative and things make sense for people to work there and a place to do business with. So that's super important there.
Hey, I got to hit you with one more quote, and it's overall for what we've talked about today, but I thought this was too good to not share. And I'm going back to Craig Groeschel again, because I've just been on a kick on reading and listening to his stuff, and he's got so much great leadership advice. He said, when you delegate tasks, you create followers. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's good. When you delegate authority, you create leaders. And you were talking about that just a couple episodes ago, about giving people authority within your organization. That's how you create the next level of leaders within your business.
That's so good, and we talked about it. We were talking about in a manager meeting yesterday of sometimes there's FOMO. Like as you climb the ladder of like, no, I still want to be over that.
Yep.
I still want to order the cars. I still want to close the deals. I still want to write the service tickets. Now, it's rare the person will say that, but they still want to feel a part of it.
They do.
And so if you're just giving tasks, hey, go do this, go do that, sure, you're going to have the followers, but as you scale, you need to give that authority to make those decisions to help in this process.
Yeah.
And be okay, just know that. And so if you can identify that, point that out, and they're like, okay, that's right. I don't need followers. I need authority figures. I need leaders in this. And so that is a very simple change, that is so hard to do sometimes without actually looking at it right in the face and saying, no, I need to delegate the authority, not the task.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good for sure.
That is so good. So frequently asked questions, we always love just like peel layer, like what else, right? Because we're 33 into this thing. It's like, all right, what else, So this one, Matt, how do you connect but maintain as a leader?
So the way I do that, and we've kind of talked about it in the episode, but the way I do that is I make sure I have a conversation, and once you scale to, we're almost 300 employees now, you got to, that's tough with 300. But I connect with having one-on-ones with managers, especially in the role I'm in now, talking to them about what's going on, trying to figure out their goals. But then when it comes to overall as a group, we're putting in those cake days, those recognitions for all the employees so we can connect. Yet I'm not crossing that line and I'm not having get-togethers at my house or barbecues or this or that. So I'm connecting, yet not going over the line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. We spent a long time talking on that.
Yeah. And so then back at you, how do you continue to set yourself apart as a leader?
And we definitely talked about that as well, but it's about personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you sit stagnant, then you kind of lose. It's a thing of the poster that you see that young kids say, hey, they go through the phases of like, I love my dad. My dad's the best. He's my hero. And it's like, hey, I wish my dad would leave me alone. And like, Dad, let me make my decisions.
I know more than you.
I know more than you, all those things. So if you don't continue to be the superhero, the person that like, dang, how did you know that? Like when somebody comes to ask you like, hey, I've got this problem, and you're like, oh yeah, it's just like this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't continue to do that, they'll stop coming to you for that, and they won't look up to you as much, and then you don't get to be the catalyst to help them grow to their new heights.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that challenges you constantly to continue to build and grow in yourself to be a great leader, so that you can always, you're filled up.
Yep.
You get to say, hey, here's 20% of me, downloaded them, and that might fill them to 90%.
Absolutely.
You're not always one-to-one there. The download that you have probably is a lot more dense.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take it and break it apart, you don't only say, here's how you fix it, but let me give you 5 minutes and show you how I came up with a process to fix it. And that's where it goes from your 20% to their 80% because you showed them through it.
Yeah.
And you don't delegate the task, but you delegate the authority. So I would say that just helps keeping you grow so then you can continue to be the spotlight that helps them.
I think that's a great point. And I'll just, on top of that, just as a closing remark, I would say you got to remember your mind is a muscle, and it's no different than any other muscle on your body. If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
So if you don't work it out, no different than being in the gym and working muscles out, it won't grow. And the body starts prioritizing other areas that you don't use. So your mind is the same thing. You've got to exercise it. You've got to challenge it. You've got to fill it up.
I love that. And it's usually uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So think about that. And we talk about this often because that's what we do. But in the endurance space, so if someone asks me, whether it's weightlifting or some type of CrossFit or a run or a long run or a hard run, oh my gosh, how do you push through that? Because there's the point, if you've pushed yourself, not the easy, but the hard, you're like, this is impossible. I cannot go another step. I cannot do another rep. And say, wait until you finish.
Oh, yeah.
I've never stood at a finish line and said, that was awful.
I'm mad I pushed through.
I'm mad that I pushed through that, right? Like, and there's been bad ones, and there's been like, whoo, and it, no, the Jesse Itzler says, no pain, no story.
Yeah.
I love that. People say no pain, no gain, no pain, no story. I love the story. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind there. It's like, push through it. Challenge your mind. Grow your mind to say, I need to learn something new to teach something new. Do not be stale.
Hey, just get out there and do something yourself, individual, that pushes you past your limits. And if you'll do that, when you come back to work, everything else is pretty easy as far as problem solving. Hey, thanks for joining us today. This has been a great episode. Just talking about a leader, talking about being right on that line between knowing your employees but not getting emotionally involved. And as always, if you have other subjects you'd like us to cover that would help you in our business, all of our contact information is there. Make sure to see us on crossroadconversationspodcast.com. And you can stop by any of the dealerships, say hi to us. We'd love to show you around and go farther into depth on any of these subjects or cover new subjects for you as well. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.